In this video, all students will be able to isolate y in a standard form equation. Before we continue, just a reminder that the word isolate means to get alone. So today, your goal is to get y alone in a standard form equation. So far, we have reviewed slope-intercept form, which follows the formula y equals mx plus b, where m and b are replaced by numbers. So in my example, I wrote y equals 2x plus 3, where 2 went in for m and 3 went in for b. The reason why we like slope-intercept form is because it's easy to graph and it's good for word problems. Please pause this video and get your notes caught up before continuing. For the next few days, we're going to be working with standard form equations. Standard form equations follow the formula ax plus by equals c. In this formula, a is going to get replaced by a number, b is going to get replaced by a number, and c is going to get replaced by a number. So an equation might look something like 5x minus 4y equals 12. Okay, where 5 has gone in for A, negative 4 has gone in for B, and 12 has gone in for C. This is actually not an easy equation to graph, so we're not going to put that down for a reason why we like it. However, it is good for word problems. There are different kinds of word problems, but they are good for word problems. Please pause this video and get your notes caught up. So since this is the first day that we are reviewing standard form equations, we're actually going to turn standard form equations back into slope-intercept just to make it more familiar. That's what we've been reviewing already, so that's going to make it easier on us. Our goal today is to turn standard form into slope-intercept form. Now, something that you might notice is that in slope-intercept form, y is by itself. Okay, there's nothing else on this side of the equation, just y. So when I say we're going to get something into slope-intercept form, our goal is actually to get y by itself. Okay, our three steps are move the x term, divide if it's necessary, and simplify if it's necessary. Those are our three steps, and I put those three steps on every slide as we continue along. Our first example is the easiest. I'm going to call this our mild example. Okay, right here we have a standard form equation, and our goal is going to be to get y by itself, and then we're actually going to graph it after that. Okay, so our three steps are going to be to move the x term, divide if it's necessary, and simplify if it's necessary. All right, so step number one, move the x term. Because over here I need my y by itself, but it has this x that's with it, and we don't like that. So we're going to minus this x away. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other, so I'm going to minus it on the right side. Let's see where that gets us. X minus x is 0. I bring down what I have. Over here I have positive y, or just y. And over here, I'm going to write it in mx plus b order, so I'm actually going to write the negative x first, and then I'm going to bring down this plus 4 as a positive 4. You'll notice I already have y by itself, so I do not need to divide or simplify because they are not necessary. In this step, our easiest example, our easiest one, all we had to do was to move the x term over. Now we're in mx plus b form. What I'd like for you to do is to pause this video, get caught up on your notes, and then also I would like you to graph this equation and check your answer before you press play. So you should have graphed y equals negative x plus 4 and gotten this graph. If you did not, go ahead and pause your video and make adjustments. Let's take a look at example number 2, our medium example. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. Remember, our goal is to get y by itself, which means we're going to move the x term, divide if it's necessary, and simplify if it's necessary. Move the x term means we need to minus this 4x away from the 2y. We want to get it away. And so whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other. It disappears. And on this left side, I have 2y left. I bring that down. I brought down that 2y. I'm going to put this in mx plus b order. So it's negative 4x, and then I'm going to bring my plus 10 down. And you'll notice we still don't have y by itself because we have this 2 in front of it. We need to get rid of that 2. Well, since it's multiplying, the way that I get rid of it is I divide it away. I'm going to divide away that 2 so that it goes away, and I just get y. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So since I divided by 2 on the left, I'm going to have to divide everything on the right by 2. Everything by 2. So that's both parts. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So now I know how to graph that, and that's what I'm going to do now. Please pause this video, get caught up, and graph that equation before checking your answer. This is the graph that you should have gotten when you graphed y equals negative 2x plus 5. Make any adjustments now before continuing on to examples 3 and 4. Now we're going to get to our spicy examples. These two problems are difficult for two different reasons, and so as we go through them, you might be getting a hang of this, but I do want you to pay attention to why they are tricky, okay? So here I have a standard form equation, and my goal is to get y by itself, okay? That has not changed. That is the same from the early examples. So we're going to start by getting rid of our x term. We're going to minus the 5x on both sides. And here is where it can be tricky. A lot of people just bring down y. But what they're missing, I'm going to scratch this out to make it obvious. What they're missing is this negative, this minus sign. We actually have to bring down negative y. Okay, negative y. Then we have negative 5x and bring down our plus 7. Another place this can be tricky is kids may think, oh, I have y by itself. But you don't have y, you actually have negative y, which if you remember is negative 1y. We need to get rid of that negative 1. So whenever you have a negative y, you're going to divide by negative 1. So on the left side here, I'm going to get rid of my negative 1s that way, and I get y by itself. Yay! What's going on the right side? Negative divided by negative is a positive, and a positive divided by negative is a negative. Okay, so that's the last tricky part, is the dividing that kids can mess up on. This is this is the equation you're going to want to graph. Please pause this video, get caught up on your notes, and graph it before proceeding. This is what your graph should look like for y equals 5x minus 7. Let's move on to our final example that we're going to do together. It's also another spicy example. Here we have a standard form equation that we're going to graph, but first we're going to get y by itself. Step 1, move the x term. So I'm going to minus this 3x away. I get 2y on the left, and I get negative 3x plus 2 on the right. Okay, that plus 2 came around right here. Now I'm going to divide by 2 to get y by itself. Here I'm going to have y by itself, and you'll notice that I actually have difficulty with that. I can't really divide that evenly, which is fine. We're actually going to keep it as a fraction. While students don't usually like fractions, we do like them for graphing because it's rise over run. So it's okay. We don't mind fractions. Then right here, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Don't forget to divide out that second piece. Okay, go ahead and pause this video, get caught up, and then graph this equation. Okay, this is what your your graph should look like. Go ahead and make any adjustments you need to before doing the two examples on your own, numbers 5 and 6. Before I continue, I just want to correct one thing I said. I think I said you had 2 practice problems on this paper. You actually only have 1. Go ahead and get those done now before you continue. Your practice problem was 6x plus 5y equals 10. You minus the 6x over. You get 5y equals negative 6x plus 10. And then you divided the 5. Oops, I'm sorry. I think in the past I wrote it like this for you guys. So y equals negative 6/5 x plus 2, which means you are at the plus 2. It's kind of hard to do on this really small graph for me. You went down 6 and over 5. So this is your graph. Okay, go ahead and complete the Google Forms, and I'll see you in class.